Welcome to Leadership, the secret sauce, where extraordinary coaches and leaders reveal what makes them exceptional. We're your hosts, Dave Lipsky and Matt Dodson. Together, let's discover our guest's secret sauce. Today's episode is brought to you by Character Matters Coaching and Consulting. At Character Matters, we believe great leadership isn't just about results. It's about who you become along the way. From career transitions to team building, we help leaders unlock clarity, build resilience, and lead authentically. Because when character grows, impact follows. Visit charactermatterscoaching.com. Today's episode is supported completely unofficially by a community we deeply believe in, the International Coaching Federation's Coaching in Organizations. If you're building or leading an internal coaching program, this is where your people find their people. It's a space to swap real stories, sharpen your craft, and stay connected to what's emerging in our field. If you haven't joined yet, take a moment to sign up and plug into the conversations shaping the future of organizational coaching. Your community is waiting, and they're ready to learn with you. Go to coachingfederation.org/coaching-in-organizations-inquiry to get started. All right, welcome in. Well, in today's episode, we're sitting down with Nick Dewar to not just uncover his secret sauce, because we did that about 14, 15 months ago. If anybody who has heard his episode before, we encourage you to listen to it. There'll be a link in the show notes. But we want to know what's happened since then. How has his secret sauce evolved? What's he learned? A lot of you that listen to us are either coaches or solopreneurs or trying to figure it out, or maybe even some of internal coaches, and you want to know what it's like on the other side. And then, of course, we have our other audience that are just really kind of fascinated to listen to Coach's story. So we know we really think the world of Nick, both Dave and I. And so we're here for that very reason, just to listen, hear what he has to say. Dave, please introduce us to Nick again.
Well, welcome, Nick. And we're going to just start off with a focus question this morning. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being low focus, 10 being high, where are you presently in this moment?
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say a huge thank you for having me back. I feel so honoured to be the first guest that's been invited back. I guess I must have done something right the first time, which is always a good thing. But to answer your question, David, I'd say I'm a 10. I'm hyper-focused at the moment. There's a lot going on within my business, within my personal life, but especially the company that I've created, which is great, and I'm loving it. And I'm sure we'll get onto it, but I've learned a lot. But yeah, I'm hyper-focused at the moment. And of course, I want to be focused for your listeners and yourselves as well. You know, that's what coaching's all about, right? You got to be present. You got to be in the moment. So I wouldn't be living my dream as a coach if I wasn't focused right now.
That is fabulous. And Matt, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
You know what? I would probably say, I'm going to just say 9.5, because I don't know if I could be a 10, but right at this moment, but I'm pretty good. I had a tremendous week, super busy, not just busy, but really enriching. I'm on my PCC journey, and got some really great mentoring by my mentor coach, and is really sort of inner shifting, I would call it. So yeah. How about you, Dave?
Yeah. No, I'm bringing it up at the rear with a 9. I am so excited again to have Nick on the show and to learn about his journey, where he's been and where he's going. And I am in my childhood bedroom, and last night, every once in a while, I went to visit my mom to help take care of her, and the door was broken on my childhood bedroom, so I was able to fix the door using these sticks and glue. So wow. I feel like I accomplished something tangible. Like there's evidence that door behind me is shut. If you notice, it was off the hinges last night. So I'm ready to rock.
Amazing.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get right into it. Okay. So Nick, if you could remind our audience what your secret sauce is, and then answer the question, like, how has it changed or evolved over the last 15, 16 months?
Yeah, no, sure. So for those of you that listened to the podcast last year, you'll remember me talking about a number of different things. And what was interesting is when I was on the podcast last year, I just finished my corporate role as a European sales leader for Samsung Electronics. And that had been my career up to that point, was working for large corporates, at the time Samsung, but Amazon and Microsoft previously. And so the values that I had at that particular time were focused around listening, purpose, culture, and my personal values. And what's interesting is nothing's really changed in the past 12 months. I think if anything, they've kind of stepped up another level, especially when it comes to my values. And I've realized that actually throughout the last 12 months, my values are the most important thing that I could have had, because they've almost been a flashlight guiding the way. Because I've got lost quite a few times since we last spoke, as I kind of cut those corporate chains away, and the safety and the security that comes with having a regular salary, and private medical and dental and pensions and all that kind of stuff. When you get rid of that and it's not there, you start to realize how important your values are. And I feel very lucky, actually, that I knew what my values were, because talking to a lot of friends and family and ex-colleagues and clients, they find it a challenge to know what their purpose and values are. So actually, I feel lucky that I figured out during my career what that looks like, and actually using that to guide the way over the last 12 months to get me out of some challenging situations where I've kind of got a little bit lost.
Okay, so you said, wow. Tell us a little bit about, if you can, like about the first time you got lost, and then you're like, hey, what happened with that? So, because I think you just described really the challenge that people face when they cut the corporate strings, the regular salary, pension, the whole bit. So what happened when you got lost the first time, or a time that you can recall?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's really important to talk about this, because sometimes, I felt like, looking back now over the past 12 months, I felt like I needed to get lost in order to find myself again, to get myself back on that track. Because when you're in that's the safety net of the corporate world, you kind of have a vision in your head about what life would look like beyond it. And I've always wanted to have my own company, and I've always wanted to help other people, and use my knowledge and experience to do that. And coaching gave me that kind of like pathway, and also like the flashlight to guide the way of a better career, better life, whatever you want to call it. And so I always figured out that's what I wanted to do. I didn't have the detail. So this time last year, I kind of knew that coaching was the focus for me, when it came to my career and what I wanted to do longer term. But I didn't quite understand what that really meant. But nonetheless, I kind of felt like I just had to make the jump. And talking about it wasn't going to do anything. I had to walk away from the security of that corporate world and throw myself into it and kind of sink or swim time, because that's the way certainly that's the way that I've always learned anyway, is you can read as many books, listen to as many podcasts, and think, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, why aren't I doing that? But it's not until you do it when you go, now I'm a little bit lost in the woods, and what have I done? What was interesting when I first left, the world that we live in right now is very unstable. There's a lot going on economically, geopolitically, and so a lot of people were like, "Are you crazy? Like leaving your relatively secure, well-paid job to do this, and you don't really have a set plan yet." And it's like, yeah, I know, but I back myself, and I've just got to give it a go. I don't want to get to the end of my life and look back and go, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. I'd rather regret giving it a go and it not worked out than never giving it a go and always wondering what if. And so that was always kind of like my mindset. So that's just a little bit of pre-context for you, because I haven't answered your question specifically yet. But during that period, there's been so many times where I've got lost because I've either followed other people's advice, was a really big learning. A lot of people tell you what you should be doing, and it depends on who that source is that you kind of take that on board, and you might go down one alleyway and realize, hang on a minute, this isn't the right path for me, and you kind of have to like backtrack back out and get back on your own path again. So that happened quite a few times actually, whereby people that you bring into your life, into your world, to give you some kind of either coaching, mentorship, or advice on where you should be going, taking that on board and it being the wrong call, and not straying to, again, this goes back to the values, not stray, remaining true to my values and what's important to me. I felt like there were points over the last 12 months where I was following someone else's dream, and I was doing what other people thought I should be doing, not what I wanted to do and what I knew my destiny was. So I think, there's been a number of individual cases, but broadly, I think, following other people's dreams and not my own was the biggest learning. And I had to, a number of times, just bring myself back on track. And the way that I did that was through the values. And just a reminder, my values in life are to be happy, to make other people happy, and to be the best version of myself that I can be. And it's like a triangle, because if I can make other people happy, that makes me happy. And if I'm the best version of myself that I can be by constantly learning, developing, listening, being inquisitive, that makes me happy. So it's kind of like a trifecta of values that, gets me where I want to get to. And what I stopped doing was making people happy because I was trying to do too many things at once and just keep my head above water, and it wasn't working. And I had to pause and remember what's important in my values, and that then got me back on track again every single time.
Yeah, question for you with that, Nick. And I love that the value set of make myself happy, make others happy, and remain true to myself. What's the optimal balance of that portfolio? Like when you're over an indexing on making other people happy or making yourself happy?
That's a really good question. I think I've always been someone who likes to help others in all sorts of walks of life, whether that's in the corporate world, in my personal life with kids, teaching others, helping others. I just, I think in life, I want to leave this world in a better place, as much as I can do. And so through helping other people, whatever that might be, it could be a small thing, could be a big thing, doesn't really matter. When you see that you've had an impact, a positive impact on someone else's life, I just fills me with glee. And I think this is why I ended up going down the coaching world, because someone had identified my secret sauce through my leadership style and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about becoming a coach?" And I hadn't done, because I'd never had any coaching myself up to that point. And it wasn't until I then started to explore, well, what is an executive coach? What do they do? I was like, wow, it really sung to me. And I was like, yeah, this is amazing. This is exactly what I love. And then all of a sudden, the pieces started to fit in. So I think, going back to your question, Dave, I think for me, it's supporting other people and seeing the impact that you can have on others. That just fills me with joy, and so that makes me happy. How I can then support those people is by constantly learning and developing and understanding this changing world that we live in. How can I be the best coach, the best husband, the best father, the best friend, whatever it might be, the best support for other people? And that means that I'm constantly developing, hopefully to help others in the right way.
Nick, do you have any like specific stories you can share, like in your early, like first clients? What happened with that, and are they still the client, or have things evolved on that side? That's sort
Yeah.
of one of the. Oftentimes, some people will go, "Well, when I've got my first client, then I'll leave my current job."
Yeah.
And in fact, I think I said it too, like, "Hey, I was planning on leaving, but I wanted to kind of say, okay, I'm going to go work for this oil and gas company
Mm.
afterwards, and I felt much more, I felt safe. It
Yeah.
was we just want to borrow your courage just a little bit, Nick. I think Dave and I just wanted to just a skosh of your courage of doing what you've done. So
Yeah.
share with the audience like what happened with those first clients.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's interesting the anecdote that you just talked about there with regards to securing a client before you leave the corporate world. I didn't do that. Partly because of my contract, and I'm a very honourable person, and I would never do that to the business. But also, I just knew that I needed to have some space, and that was another learning for me. Was to kind of I spent so long in that corporate world, and I'd created a European sales business from scratch that got to a very large sum, and I just needed to have a little bit of a break and just to pause. And so I had a seed of an idea of what I wanted to do, but again, it wasn't fully baked. And it was during that period of reflection, I'd call it, was when the penny started to drop in terms of exactly what I wanted to do and what the focus was. There was always a problem that I've observed in every company that I've worked at that I was looking to solve, but I was really struggling to articulate it and kind of figure out, well, how do I talk about this problem in a way that resonates with others, and how do I solve it in a really simplistic way that just makes sense to other people, so that they go, oh god, yeah, of course, everyone's got that issue or challenge or whatever it might be. And so when you're in a business, it's really tough to get that time to think, because you're constantly, on the go, chasing the next quarter, trying to, chase the next sale or whatever it might be. And it's not until you take a step back that you have that time and you think, right, okay. And through speaking to lots of people as well and questioning, every time I had a conversation with my professional network, you'd learn something new that would constantly help me refine and develop and just sharpen and kind of figure out what it is and what it could be. But that doesn't happen quickly. I mean, it's taken me 12 months to get to the point where I'm now, where I'm starting to figure it out. And even now, even this morning, I had a coaching conversation this morning, and you learn all the time. And actually, simple things like how you're pricing your products and your services constantly evolves, because again, you need to be open-minded, you need to listen. So again, going back to your original question, I didn't have any initial clients when I first started, but I managed to pick some up fairly quickly. And I've still got those early clients that are still on the books. But that was from a pure coaching perspective. So in that journey, I've now created a business that is not just based on pure coaching. It's coaching is the fundamental aspect of it, and it's the bedrock for the whole business, but with a specific focus on a specific niche audience, which is one of the things that I knew that I needed to try to refine is, who is my niche? Who am I going after? What's the problem? How am I solving it? And I hadn't quite done that. And it took me a while to get there, but I'm pleased to say I'm there now.
Nick, how has the customer evolved over the last year plus? Like how have, so you said it's not just coaching, it's coaching, and how has that changed? Like when you initially went into it, you're like, oh yeah, I just want to do coaching.
Yeah.
And then how has that changed?
Yeah. Well, so the problem that I've always seen that I was trying to solve for, and maybe you've both seen this yourselves in your past careers, and maybe you still see it now, and maybe, people listening to this here can see this as well. And that's, when you're an individual contributor within a business, you get to a stage in your career where you've kind of done everything you can do. You've been in the company for a while, and the next step is leadership. It's to manage the team. And so you decide, yeah, okay, I want to be a manager. The company doesn't know what to do with you next because you've hit all the targets. You're at a stage in your career, you've been there for years. Let's make you a manager. But that leap from an individual contributor to a leader is a huge one. Changing your mindset from me to we is a challenge. And I've never seen it handled very well within any business that I've worked at in the past. And so what I realized that I wanted to do is to work with commercial leaders or aspiring commercial leaders that have the knowledge and the aspiration to want to lead with clarity and confidence, but have never been given the tools or the support to do so. And so subsequently, what happens is you end up going through it by intuition or by leading in the style or the way that previous managers used to manage you, which is very dangerous in a commercial world, especially when you think, most people leave their companies not because of the company, but because of their managers. So, it can be very dangerous to mimic. So what I wanted to do is create a very simple 2-step program that provides those leaders with a personal diagnostic. First of all, that's the first step, is to really understand where is that individual right now within their own career aspirations as a leader, and where do they want to get to. And then the second part is then a structured coaching program that's very specific and related to that diagnostic. So the diagnostic is really important because that's really, and it's a coaching conversation where I can really get under the skin of where that person's at and what's their mindset and what's their views on culture and teams and development. And then it makes it a lot easier to have a really structured coaching conversation that's relatable back to that diagnostic. And there's an output then as well, both for the individual leader, because they end up having that clarity and confidence of how to lead a team. The team itself that's got that leader then starts to see a high performing culture evolve because they're seeing a different type of leader show up on a day-to-day basis. And the third thing is the business sees the benefit because all of a sudden we've got an engaged team that's providing predictable performance. So, there's 3 clear outcomes there, 2 steps in order to get there, and solving a problem that I've never seen many people help solve before. And so that when the light bulb kind of goes off and you're like, yeah, this is it. That's the problem I've been trying to solve, and this is how I do it. And then the more I've been doing it, the more, like I said, evolving it into different flavors. So now I say aspiring at the beginning because at first I started on the current leader that's in that commercial environment, but never been given the tools and support. Simple things like how to run a one-to-one. Like no one ever told me how to run a one-to-one. You just kind of figure it out because, my boss before me did one whenever he felt like it. It wasn't a structured, regular, revenue-based one-to-one where you talk about results, pipeline, revenue. It was just, how's your weekend? And if you work in a commercial environment, you got numbers to hit. There's a structure to it, but no one ever tells you that. So that's what I wanted to provide, certainly my clients is, let's understand where you're at, what you're currently doing that's working. That's great, but where are the areas, where are the gaps, and how can I help you get there? And so that's what I've been focused on creating.
I'm very interested, Nick, as you described that in working with many sales leaders and the resistance you get of like, don't mess with my flow. Like I'm feeling it, right? I know what's next. My intuition will tell me when to have the one-on-ones. What in your coaching, in your development, how much are you trying to undo that, and how much are you trying to teach new tools, new ways of doing things?
Well, it's a good question. It really depends on the individual, and that's why I wanted to make it a coaching-based program. Is because if that's an area that they're happy with and it's working for them, then great. It's not my job to try to unpick that. It's really to understand where are the gaps, and I don't want people to turn up to coaching thinking that they've already got the answers or that I can't help them. I mean, you both know as coaches that you have, in order to get the most value from any kind of coaching session, you've got to be slightly vulnerable and want to learn and want to open up and want to have that kind of conversation. If you're the type of commercial leader that I know all the answers and you can't teach me anything, then I probably don't want to coach you, and you probably don't want to be coached by me either. So how about we just say, nice to meet each other, let's connect on LinkedIn and walk away. But there are always going to be elements of someone's leadership style that works for them, and it might not work for me, but if it works for them, great. it's, again, through the coaching conversation, it's not about me giving them the answers or teaching them anything. It's about me asking the right questions for them to to lead them to the solution, and try to understand the impact that can have, either positively or negatively, depending on what comes out of that coaching conversation.
Yeah, I like how you said if it's working for them. In the people I'm picturing, in their mind, it's absolutely working for them. In their direct reports mind, not so much. Right?
Yeah.
And right, and you're also called in because the person needs coaching, but doesn't necessarily see that I'm part of the problem.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that then becomes a very interesting conversation. And again, it goes back to, if that person's uncoachable, I'm sure you've both had those conversations, then, how much impact am I going to have? Are they just going to, flatly refuse any kind of input and information? That person, you could start questioning, are they right for that company in that role? If they're not performing and they've been put on a program and they're not willing to listen and open up, there's a bigger problem there. And
Mm.
so that's not for me to necessarily fix, but that's a big red flag if I'm the leader that said this person needs to be, coached by you, and I'm there to help, and they don't want to be helped. If they're not going to listen or go through the program with me, are they going to go through it with anyone else? And how are they going to improve? How are they going to develop? If someone's not willing to listen and learn and embrace and just, take on board someone else's feedback, or, feedback as a gift, and they're not willing to take it, then it's kind of, I don't know, it's very difficult as a coach to have that kind of conversation and lead them to the path of, a brighter future.
I do notice on that one topic, because I've had it a couple of times recently where I've talked to the coaching sponsor, the person that's asking,
Mm.
and have just boldly said, I don't think that person is right for this company.
Yeah.
And they just are shocked. I was, look, I just don't, this may not be. And I would just say that, even though it may be like, as a coach, you're asking me a hard question.
Mm.
And if they may be, I sort of, I sort of think about my, like, one time when I was talking about leadership at Tesla, and they had a much freer sort of approach to employment. And they just said, hey, look, we consider when they leave and they become a director somewhere else, like, they've become ambassadors for working at Tesla. It's a
Mm.
different mindset, rather than, oh, I have to keep them here. And as a coach, I'm saying, hey, there's some freedom. We just want to be sure the person is in the right place ultimately.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. And again, it depends on the individual, and, if they're performing and, the results are there and they're not causing any issues with the rest of the team, and then great, but it depends on the individual circumstances and where
yeah.
the person that's, either being put on the coaching program is in their career. But yeah, I love that. I mean, that kind of exit from a company and becoming an ambassador is an area that not many companies do. But you're absolutely right. Do you want that person to badmouth the company and talk about the team or the leaders in a certain way that might not be very positive? Or do you want them to say, oh, they were great, it's just that it wasn't the right fit for me, and actually looking back, I appreciate the feedback that I had, and then now look at me, I'm in a better place.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it comes down to the individual, really.
I have an interesting early reflection on this because, Nick, when you started off the conversation, you talked about the importance of values in guiding you,
Mm.
and the extreme in a discussion with our clients as we contract, right, is the person's not a right fit. Not necessarily that we're asked that.
Mm.
Usually not necessarily asked that. But in terms of, is values a part of your contracting discussions? In terms of, right, what is the company looking to see in their leaders and more?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of, what the company's objectives, and, what is it they want to have the coaching program, then yeah, absolutely, yeah. And, it's ultimately is can I help this person? And again, it goes back to, if if someone's going to be on the program but doesn't want to be coached, then that's not going to help. Certainly the values of the business, my personal values, because I can't offer any value. And then it almost goes the opposite way. If I can't offer you any value, then doesn't make me very unhappy, but I feel like I'm not contributing to that person. And is it me? Is it them? Is it a reflection on the environment? Is it, you start questioning all sorts of things. So I think that, again, the values show up, because if I can't help this person, then that's not going to make me happy. And if I can't help the company that I'm contracting with get that person to where they want to go, I think ethically it's in my right, my job to put my hands up and say, look, I don't think this is the right program. This is the right person. Maybe I'm not the right coach. It's great to know you, but I think you're not at the right stage yet. So maybe give me a call in 12 months' time when you've got other challenges that I can solve, and you have got people that want to be supported and led in the right way. That's where I add value. So it's knowing where your values are, absolutely, but also knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and knowing when to walk away. Which is something in my commercial world I would tell my team all the time. If you're working with a client and you think that this is just going to be trouble, or it's not going to add value, or X, Y, Z, just because you've got a number, don't be afraid to walk away and say, look, we're not the right fit for you right now. You know where we are. When you're ready, give me a call. Because it's so rare, especially in the sales world, that people do that you always remember the ones that do. And there's a reason why they do that. That trust and honesty and transparency will always come back in a positive way later down the line. So paying it forward in that way can only be a good thing. So again, that absolutely comes back to the values and ensuring that, that your happiness is there in a positive light, and you're keeping your integrity, I'd say.
Nick, what is as you see it and as you kind of look out over the horizon, what is the next evolution for your business after 15 months?
AI.
Ooh.
No,
maybe that's too easy about boom.
I mean, which conversations are you having at the moment where AI isn't involved, right? But yeah. I say in jest, but also I am thinking about, you'd be silly not to look at technology and think of ways that, how could I scale this co-performance system that I've created in a way that can help more people? Because at the moment, the one limiting factor is my time, right? As a coach, you guys know that, your coach is your most valuable asset. Your time is your most valuable asset. So if you remove that time-based period and you're able to support more people more widely in different time zones or whatever it might be, with the same ethos and structure and framework that I've created, then maybe that's not a bad thing. So it's very early days yet, but that's kind of like way down the line. But before then, one of the things that I will do eventually is I'm trying to create almost like a cohort of people that have gone through the co-performance system, whether it's, you're an aspiring manager or current manager, or you're just about to start a new job as a manager or leader, and to bring these people together into a community, to learn from each other. Because there are people that I'm coaching from different industries and different companies and different sizes. I think because of technology almost and AI, you sometimes lose the connection, the human connection of talking to each other. And so one of the things that I want to do eventually is to bring those people together and to learn from each other. And so that's on my roadmap, hopefully within the next 12 months. And the thing is, you never know what's going to come out of these discussions. Again, it's about being that open-mindedness and constantly learning and developing. Every conversation I have, something sparks an idea. Oh yeah, that's so good. But again, it's kind of like just one step at a time. Get the business up and running, make sure you're adding value, learn from that, what's landing, what's not, constantly keep refining. Don't be afraid to change and refine it as well. Just because you're set in one way doesn't mean you have to stick to it. That's another learning that I've had in the last 12 months. If something's not working and it's not quite landing, don't be afraid to change it. No, because no one's expecting you to carry on down that path. It's only what's in your head and what you're thinking. Again, if it's adding value to the customer and solving their problems, then change it. do what's best. So yeah, I've got all sorts of ideas bubbling in my head, but those two, creating a cohort and a kind of like membership community, if you like, and then how can I use AI to solve wider customers' problems and make it more scalable? Those are two things that I'm kind of thinking about right now.
Nick, as where you're at, what has changed in terms of the resources that you're listening to? Any habits that have changed over the year that you could recommend to other people that are just starting out or just trying to figure it out too?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the biggest things actually is I spent a lot of time building the actual business. So I've done everything myself, from creating the logo to building the website to everything in between. Because I've been watching the pennies, or the cents or the dollars for the American listeners. Um, I wanted to make sure that I'm being frugal with my money, because it's my own money now. It's not my corporate money, and so it affects my family. So I also wanted to learn how to do things myself. I wanted to go through this process of literally starting a business, from registering it with the UK government and getting the ball rolling all the way through to landing the first client and to watching that first pound come through the door, and know how to go through that process. And I can say that I've done it myself, and be proud of the fact that I've done it myself. So that's been really key to go through that process. It's been tough. But to go back to your point, the reason I say that is because I've had to learn a lot about other aspects of business that I've never had to before. Again, when you're in the corporate world, yeah, you go on training, workshops, and X, Y, Z. That's great, but it's very specific to your line of business. So from my perspective, it's all about sales or the commercial world. Whereas when you're creating your own business, all of a sudden there's tax, there's legal, there's PR, there's data, there's all sorts of other things that you haven't even considered, that kind of slow you down from what you want to be doing, which is coaching, to all of a sudden having to set up calls with the accountant, or having legal conversations, or how do I create my own website? Is this branding okay? Does it resonate with my audience? Does it make sense? So that takes you away from revenue generating, but you have to create that foundation in order to build a strong, architecture. So that's the last 12 months of that whole journey that I talked about earlier with regards to getting lost. Some of that getting lost is in the whole setting up the business piece. Again, people tell you to use a certain platform. They tell you should use a certain email provider. They tell you, and you don't know. You're just kind of finding your feet. So the resources that I've been using have very much been like podcasts that I've never listened to in the past, but more about how to build a business rather than the pure coaching side. But I'm now at a stage where I've kind of gone through that, and I'm kind of getting more back towards the pure coaching element. Now that the business is set up, it's not, I wouldn't say it's 100% finished yet, because I can always be optimizing it. And as I mentioned earlier, I still am. But resources wise, it's listening to different types of podcasts than I had before, reading different types of books, but more focused towards that kind of like how to build a business side.
Dave, what's your reflection for everything? I'm super curious, Dave. What do you hear from Nick? And then
I see hope in the journey. I see struggle in the journey. Like you can't, right? There's no rescue from the struggle. It's what we know as coaches, but we don't always want it ourselves, right? We what's the pill? I'll take the pill. I feel better. So I really appreciate you openly and honestly sharing the struggle, and learn. And you have to learn. Your rate of learning has to exceed what the marketplace is screaming for, right? And what your business cycle is. And the last thing is, I appreciated this last time. You're so genuinely, authentically values based, and anytime we kind of get away from our values and driving what we do with our business, we just have to take a deep breath and like come back to our values. So I so appreciate you sharing that, Nick.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I think, well, one, um, Nick, you are a genuine, like, as you have a lot of genuineness. Um, and so I hope our audience heard that, because we experience it when we talk to you. Um, and, if you were looking to hear, so this is what if I was looking to hear about someone who is like in the midst of the hustle, then I hope you got something out of what was shared. And yeah, I'm sure your clients really appreciate you, and just like Dave and I do, and just appreciate you coming and even sharing what you've learned over the last 15, 16 months. And yeah, thank you. It's it resonates with me as someone who's only about 2.5 years into it. So it is you always feel like you're learning, and it's easy to get lost. I will just confess, I could really relate to that, whether that's LinkedIn or some new platform or somebody else's dream. That's what I took away. It's somebody else's dream and not yours.
Yeah, 100%. And, in a world of social media, it's easy to look at other people's lives and think how great they are. And, people tell you how easy it is. And I think that's why I wanted to be open and honest with your audience, because I wish it was, but actually I think you learn more through the struggles than you do through, the successes. And as long as you go into it with that kind of mindset and understanding that there's going to be some tough times, but back yourself, back yourself every time you got this, and have, a strong community around you, then great things can happen. And I'm still on that journey. I'm not there yet, but I can see I'm back on the pathway that I originally intended to be on. And I feel grateful for that. And I wouldn't have got there if I had not gone down a few dark alleys and figured out this is not the right way for me. So, that don't be afraid to get lost, because it's not necessarily a bad thing.
All right. So for our audience, you can find Nick on LinkedIn. You can also find him on his website. Nick, is there a URL that people is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can head to the b2bculturecoach.com. So www.b2bculturecoach.com. Or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Either way, all my details are on there. So feel free to drop me a line. I'd love to have a chat and a conversation.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This has been a really special time, just of hearing the evolution of Nick and his business. We hope you check him out. Hope you reach out. You'll find him just as genuine and as kind a human being as we have on our podcast. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks for listening. If you love this podcast, please share it with another coach or leader. Make sure you go to the show notes to get all the resources from today's episode.